In the 1970s, television was more than entertainment. It was a shared family ritual, and Demond Wilson was part of that ritual for millions of households. Week after week, his face appeared in living rooms across America, not as a flashy leading man, but as someone familiar, steady, and relatable. As Lamont Sanford on Sanford and Son, Wilson became the grounded center of one of the most successful sitcoms of its era. While audiences laughed at the chaos around him, they trusted Lamont to keep things from falling apart completely. That quiet reliability is what made Wilson unforgettable. Fame came quickly and powerfully, placing him among the biggest television stars of the decade. Yet even at the height of his success, there was always something deeper behind his performance. Wilson was never chasing celebrity for its own sake. He was building something more meaningful, even if few recognized it at the time. Becoming Lamont Sanford. When Sanford and Son premiered in 1972, few could have predicted just how deeply it would embed itself into American culture. Adapted from a British series, the show found its heartbeat in the relationship between Fred Sanford and his son Lamont. Demond Wilson stepped into the role at just 26 years old, facing off opposite the legendary Red Fox. It was no small challenge, yet Wilson matched Fox scene for scene with restraint, timing, and emotional intelligence. While Fred Sanford dominated with bluster and theatrics, Lamont anchored the show with patience and heart. He was the straight man, but never dull. He was the voice of reason, but never cold. That balance made the chemistry electric. As ratings soared and tens of millions tuned in weekly, Wilson wasn't just acting. He was helping shape one of the most influential sitcoms in television history. Life inside a cultural phenomenon. At its peak, Sanford and Son wasn't just popular, it was unavoidable. The show ranked among the highest-rated programs on television, drawing an audience that crossed generations and backgrounds. For 5 consecutive years, Demond Wilson became part of the national conversation, his performance woven into daily life. Fame of that magnitude brings opportunity, but it also brings pressure. Schedules were relentless, expectations constant, and the public image impossible to escape. Behind the laughter, Wilson carried the responsibility of keeping pace with a cultural juggernaut. He was expected to deliver consistency while navigating the realities of working in a demanding industry. Yet through it all, he maintained professionalism and composure. Viewers may have seen Lamont reacting to his father's antics, but off-screen, Wilson was learning firsthand how success can uplift and exhaust at the same time, especially when it arrives so quickly. Beyond one iconic role. When Sanford and Son concluded in 1977, Demond Wilson didn't disappear. Instead, he continued working steadily, determined not to be defined by a single character. He moved directly into another sitcom, Baby, I'm Back, and later took on a starring role in The New Odd Couple, bringing his own interpretation to a classic format. He also transitioned into film, appearing in projects that showcased a different side of his talent. These roles may not have reached the same cultural height as Lamont Sanford, but they demonstrated Wilson's versatility and commitment to growth. He was proving, both to audiences and to himself, that his abilities extended beyond one legendary performance. Still, something within him was shifting. The applause was there, the work was there, but the fulfillment he expected from success remained incomplete. A turning point. Few expected. Sometime after his television peak, Demond Wilson began reevaluating everything fame had promised him. Despite career achievements, he has spoken openly about feeling spiritually unfulfilled, as though something essential was missing. This inner conflict marked a profound turning point. Rather than ignoring it, Wilson leaned into the discomfort and began a spiritual journey that would reshape his life. He eventually became an ordained minister, choosing faith not as a side interest, but as a guiding purpose. This was not a publicity move or a temporary retreat. It was a fundamental shift in priorities. While many in his position might have chased renewed visibility, Wilson chose reflection. He stepped away from the spotlight, not out of bitterness, but out of conviction, believing that personal integrity mattered more than continued fame. Walking away from the spotlight. One of the most remarkable aspects of Demond Wilson's story is not what he achieved, but what he willingly left behind. At a time when many actors fight to stay relevant at any cost, Wilson chose a different path. He turned down roles and opportunities that conflicted with his values, even when they promised financial gain. This decision led to a long hiatus from mainstream acting, a period that spanned decades. To outsiders, it may have looked like disappearance, but for Wilson, it was alignment. He focused on ministry, writing, and service, building a life that reflected his beliefs rather than his resume. In an industry driven by visibility, stepping away requires courage. Wilson's absence wasn't a failure of ambition. It was a declaration that success without meaning wasn't success at all. Writing, faith, and purpose. During his years away from acting, Demond Wilson found a new voice through writing and teaching. He authored several books centered on faith, spirituality, and personal responsibility, using his platform to share lessons drawn from both Hollywood and ministry. His writing was direct, reflective, and shaped by lived experience rather than theory. Wilson spoke candidly about the emotional cost of fame and the discipline required to rebuild one's inner life. Through sermons, interviews, and books, he emphasized accountability, humility, and the importance of staying grounded. This chapter of his life revealed a man deeply committed to growth, not applause. While the world remembered him as Lamont Sanford, those who followed his later work came to know him as a thoughtful communicator, someone more interested in impact than recognition. Returning with intention. Years later, when Demond Wilson did return briefly to acting, it wasn't driven by nostalgia or career revival. It was intentional. His later appearances reflected careful choice, aligning with projects that resonated personally rather than commercially. This return served as a reminder that stepping away doesn't mean closing the door forever. It means learning when and why to re-enter. Wilson's approach demonstrated that longevity doesn't require constant presence. It requires discernment. By the time he reappeared on screen, audiences saw not just a familiar face, but a man shaped by time, faith, and experience. There was depth behind the performance earned through years of introspection. It wasn't about reclaiming stardom. It was about contributing something meaningful on his own terms. A legacy bigger than fame. Demond. Wilson's legacy cannot be measured solely by ratings, reruns, or recognition. Yes, he will always be remembered as Lamont Sanford, a character who helped define an era of television. But his deeper legacy lies in the choices he made when the cameras stopped rolling. He showed that it's possible to walk away from the spotlight without losing purpose, that success doesn't have to come at the expense of values. In an industry often associated with excess, Wilson chose restraint. In a culture obsessed with relevance, he chose authenticity. His life offers a powerful reminder that fame is a chapter, not the whole story. What endures is character, conviction, and the courage to live according to one's beliefs. That lesson may be his most lasting contribution of all.